Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great evening. I am very tired. I'm not going to lie. It has been a long week, and this is going to be a late night with daylight saving. I don't know you have daylight saving where you are, but we do the daylight saving thing here in North Carolina, and I tell you what, that morning came real fast. I checked my clock because I didn't believe that it was 6:30. Last week 6:30 was a little light. At least you could see walking around your room. Our room is fairly dark to begin with, and with daylight saving, shifting forward an hour, my room was completely dark this Monday. So it was not a good morning, and it's been not a good week. But I'm powering through it. I'm here, ready to do whatever I can to stay awake and get myself through Gear Talk. It is, I always say this, but it is the highlight of my week. I really enjoy doing these. I like talking with people. I like seeing all of your questions and talking about skating, which is a thing that I love, which I haven't been able to do very much lately, just due to schedules and prior commitments and stuff. But it is a very important part of my life, and to be able to share that with you really means a lot. Thanks again for tuning in, and let me switch over to the chat, and let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to Gear Talk episode 112. Gear Talk is the show that I do every other week, give or take, where we talk about the geekier side of rollerblading. If you know the difference between a flat heel and a raised heel, and why it makes a difference with which sole plates you can choose, then you've come to the right place. Gear Talk is the show where we take your skates, we dial them in so that you have the best session possible. We're going to break down individual wheel profiles, which bearings to use, what frames you should use for which situation that you find yourself in, so that you can have the best skating experience. We want you to go out there and blame yourself because you don't skate enough, because you have kids and maybe you don't get an opportunity to get to the skate park enough, but don't blame your equipment. We're going to help you do as much as we can to get the equipment dialed in so that when you go out to the skate park, when you go to your favorite ledge, or whenever you go skating your favorite trail, you've got your wheels dialed so that you can skate as fast as you can, as quickly as possible, and all that you can blame is yourself and your poor upkeep of your physical shape. But, if you have a really good session, maybe that will inspire you to get in better shape, eat better, take better care of yourself so that you go out and skate and you can get better at that. That's what we're here to do. We're here helping people. We do this every other Wednesday live on YouTube. If you are able to join us, we are here at 9 p.m. Eastern. It is a great time. We have a lot of people in the live chat to answer your questions. If you've got questions, they're a great resource to ask. A lot of good conversations, a lot of nice, happy people that are, again, passionate about the gear. They love the geeky stuff, and they love rollerblading, but most importantly, they love to look at their skates and say, how can I make you better, skate? What's the best way to optimize performance so that when I go out there and skate, I have the greatest time imaginable? We do this every other Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. You can go to the Back to Blading YouTube channel and find it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Get that push notification. I also update our Facebook and our Instagram whenever we're planning a show so that you have a couple of days to ask questions or to get yourself psyched, get a nice beverage ready, maybe clear your calendar so that you can join us in the live chat. If you are unable to watch in live, I totally understand that. It is 9 p.m. Eastern. I do this because my kids get to bed around 9 o'clock. So I'm able to get out of there, but I can't leave early. So I can't do it any earlier. It's family time. Family's super important to me. Making sure that we've got dinner on the table, making sure kids do their homework, making sure the dogs are fed and everything is sorted out at the house. And then I come over here a little bit early and I clean up and I get ready for the night. So 9 p.m. Eastern is when I usually start it. It's a good time zone for East Coast and West Coast. It kind of sucks for people in Europe and it's horrible for people in Asia. If you are one of those people, I apologize. I wish we could do more live streams for your time zones. But if you are able to watch this in the future, please feel free to ask a question in the comments. We'd love to answer your questions. I I read every comment that you leave. So if you have a question on any one of my videos, a comment, feedback, something like that, if you notice something that I'm skating that you wanted more information on, or if you like the skate park or some of the tricks that I'm attempting, I read everything. So make sure that you leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. If you are able to join us live, we do answer your questions. So make sure that you tag Back to Blading on your questions. The @ sign and Back to Blading. It'll show up in orange so that I can see it. That way I'll be able to scroll through the questions and I'll be able to answer the questions without any of the noise. Because there's, people talk. It's not a lecture or anything like that. This should be a conversation. It should be, like we're just hanging out at the bar or hanging out at a theater or something, in a coffee shop and just talking about skates. This is the sort of thing that I love to do, and there's a lot of people out there who are watching live who like to talk about that stuff too. Appreciate you. Glad you could join us tonight. Before we get started, I would like to thank my friends over at thehelmetinitiative.org for helping us with our helmet giveaway. Almost as important as getting skates is getting a helmet. You don't necessarily need a helmet if you don't have skates, but you do need a helmet if you do have skates. So if you are planning on skating, I always recommend you get a helmet. Budget yourself $50 or so to buy yourself a nice quality helmet. I understand that helmets can be a little expensive, but they are super important. If you want to wear a helmet, I want to make sure that you have that ability. I'm trying to get as many people, can't say the words. I want to try to get as many helmets on people's heads as possible. So the way that we're able to do that is we've partnered with our friends over at thehelmetinitiative.org. They've sent us a bunch of helmets to give away. So every episode of Gear Talk, I'm able to give away a helmet to somebody who's out there, who wants a helmet, who's dying to get a helmet, but maybe can't afford it, maybe just can't get around to getting it. Go to backtoblading.com/helmet for your chance to win one. Let's see, there it is. Put the link in the show notes. Not in the show notes, in the chat. Backtoblading.com/helmet. That's the place that you go if you want to fill out the form to get a helmet. We're not going to sell your information. We delete these forms responses after the show. But I do leave this form up for 24 hours or so that anybody out there who's interested can put their name in the hat, and I will pick somebody at random to give away a helmet. If you are in the US, we have 888 Certified Sweat Savers. That is the helmet of choice. It's the helmet that I wear. It is a great helmet. It is very protective and fairly comfortable. No helmet's going to be extremely comfortable. That is the sacrifice that you have to make for a little bit of safety. But it is a great helmet. We will send you one of those helmets. So all you need to do is fill out your information, put in your first name, last name, and your email address so that I can contact you. I will pick somebody at random and I will send out a helmet sometime next week. Usually it takes me a few days to catch up with life before I can go and do these giveaways. But I definitely want to give you a helmet. So make sure that you fill it out if you've got that desire. If you're outside of the US, it's a little bit more difficult for me to send you a helmet. Customs can be a little difficult. Shipping here in the US, it costs me about $14, $10 to $14, depending on where you live, to ship the helmet over. If you're outside of the US, it's $20 or $30. So it's almost the cost of the helmet to send it over there, and you might have to pay taxes on import. So that's not fun. I don't want to do that. So instead, I'd rather just send you the money directly that I would have spent on shipping so that you can buy yourself a helmet in your local currency. So if you're outside of the US, absolutely not a problem. You can still fill out that form. We're going to send you $50 US so that you can buy yourself a helmet in your local shop. We get that money from our supporters on Patreon. So patreon.com/backtoblading. Great place to learn a little bit more about what we do on the Patreon. We have the podcast. We don't do the podcast very often, but when we do, you'll get the podcast early. We also post some behind the scenes stuff. We haven't done that very often. I can be completely honest, we don't do a ton on our Patreon. There are much more active Patreons out there if you want to support a rollerblader. This is more for supporting the channel and for helping get helmets on people's heads. If you've got a few extra bucks a month, we would appreciate it. Patreon.com/backtoblading is where you go to find more information about that. And then again, thanks to our friends over at the Helmet Initiative for helping us with our helmet giveaway. It's been a great partnership for 3 years now we've been doing this. It's pretty incredible that we've put probably 50 or so helmets on people. That's a great number. I am blown away that we've been able to do that much. It's one of those things that was a passion project for me. I had a friend who fell and hit their head, and I said, you know what, there's got to be a way that we can get more helmets out there. So that's where this started, and thankfully there's some nice people out there who want to support that. So thank you all so much for watching, and thanks for the support. And yeah, backtoblading.com/helmet if you want to put your name in the hat to win a helmet, or put a name in the helmet so that you can win a helmet. I don't know if that works as well, but you know what I mean. All right. I don't really have a current setup. So I do have my current setup. This is what I've been skating. These are them 909s. I've been skating them anti-rocker on balance 2s, 60 mil on the outside UHMW, wheels on the inside. I'm skating the RL1s, but to be honest, I haven't skated them since I've spoken at Gear Talk last. I brought these out to Bitter Cold. Bitter Cold was 2 weeks ago, and I never skated. So my Bitter Cold, you can listen to the podcast to get a little bit more information about my Bitter Cold journey. But Bitter Cold is one of the bigger events that we have in rollerblading, and aggressive rollerblading. And this was actually the last one. So they have done, I don't know, a dozen or so of these events. This was the last one. So I told myself, I've got to get out there. Not only, do we have brands that I'd like to represent and show people, we don't have a ton of skate shops here in the US. So having a way that I can show people the products that I'm very proud of and I'm working on, I want to make sure that I have a way to do that. Additionally, we are an amazing community, and I want to support as many events as I can. So this year, I'm planning on going to as many events as possible. I think it's a really good opportunity to connect with other rollerbladers, to get excited about skating, to really see what skating has to offer. If you're only skating by yourself and, your exposure to skating is my YouTube channel or other YouTube channels, maybe, Instagram, you're missing a huge part of what makes blading amazing. There is a community of people who are the freaks and geeks, right? So we're the weirdos that weren't ever picked for, sports or didn't fit in high school or whatever. But we come together at these events and everybody gets along because we all have one passion, and that is rollerblading. So we can talk the talk, we can break down our skates, we can share what setups we're on, we can do the same sort of grinds and cheer each other on. It is an amazing supportive community. And I encourage everybody out there, if you have a local event that you can get to, a couple hours drive, not a problem. Get yourself in the car, get out there. It is a really great opportunity to connect with people, meet people who are like-minded. I know a lot of us might be a little, I don't know, I'm not the most enthusiastic, outgoing guy. It might come across that way, when I meet people or, on the YouTube, but I'm pretty much a homebody. I like to stay at home. I love my family and my wife and my kids. So I like to stay at home and just, hang out with my dogs and play with, my kids. But there is a thing to be said about hanging out with others. And I don't get to skate with other people very often. So these events is a really good chance for me to connect with skaters outside of my little local circle. I think everybody owes it to themselves to get out to their local event. I think it's really important. Anyway, long story short, I got out to Bitter Cold and I had a booth. I had a booth set up for balance distribution, and I wanted to share all of the stuff. Unfortunately, the suitcase that my booth samples were in was lost. So I had a flight from here in Durham, North Carolina, up to Detroit, but through Newark, New Jersey, which is like New York. And unfortunately, my bag got stuck there. So I made it to Newark, and then I made it to Detroit, and I looked around and my bag wasn't there. So all of the samples that I had put together, all of the display units that I 3D printed so that they would look really cool when you're walking by, my credit card reader so that people could have a much easier way to pay for stuff if they wanted to buy something, all of that was gone. It was all in the suitcase. And I realized this at 12:30 at night, the day of the event. So 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, opens at 9. So I had 8 hours to figure out what to do. It was a bit of a nightmare. Thankfully I've got an amazing team that supported me there. Stefan, again, thanks so much for all of your help, and Guy for picking me up from the airport. It was a really stressful time that thankfully didn't cause any stress. I felt like we would just roll with the punches. Everybody was just there to have fun. We had product, we just didn't have the product that I wanted to share, which, if you know me, you know that I like to control the way that products are shared, and I like to control the image, and I like to present things in a way that people are going to be excited. And I had that. I had it planned. But, fate had different ideas. So my suitcase ended up not showing up. My skates were with me. But to be honest, by the time that I got out there, it was a late night flight, and I was stressed about finding my luggage, and I didn't get to sleep very early because, you get to the hotel and I'm like, my mind is buzzing. I'm like, okay, what all do I need to do? Because I need to figure out a way to display this stuff. I need to figure out all the products. What am I missing? What do I need? Like, everything was planned, but it was all in that suitcase, and that didn't scale very well. So didn't sleep super well that night. Had to wake up 7 o'clock the next morning, so probably in bed at 2:30, waking up at 7, because that's the way that we roll at 46. It's not easy to do when you get older. I tell you what, it's not easy to wake up early when you're young, but when you're older, it really sucks. So that night, during the day we had the trade show. During the afternoon, I hung out and watched some of the event. I went and had some dinner, and I hung out with some friends. That night, I just went back to bed. Everybody was so excited to go hang out, and they went up to the bars, and they went, hanging out with everybody. Not me. I stayed in bed, and I had a beer, that my friend Jeff Metz gave me, and I sat in bed, and I watched Shrinking on Apple TV, which is a really great show about a group of psychologists that are dealing with, issues in life. And a really, really great show. I highly recommend it. So I watched that, and I just hung out in bed, and I had a beer, and I passed out. I think I was asleep at like 11, which, is pretty normal for me. I usually get to bed around 10:30 or 11 o'clock. But, everybody else was out late. It was definitely not a get to bed early sort of night. So I made that decision while I was sitting in bed that, my flight was supposed to leave Sunday night at like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or something like that. And I was going to have the same problem. So leaving at 7 because I wanted to make sure that I had as much time as possible on Sunday to hang out with everybody, because I knew I was going to be busy on Saturday during the event. Much time as possible on Sunday to hang out with everybody. And that's why I brought my skates, so that I could go to Bishop, so I could go to any of the skate parks that they've got in the Detroit area and just go explore and have fun. I brought my camera, so I was going to do a YouTube video and all that. And Saturday night, I said, you know what? Screw all this. I am changing my flight. It was like $100 to change my flight, but I'm like, it's worth it. Changing my flight. I got out of there around noon or so, and I was home by like 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern. And I feel like it was the best decision I could have made. I was back in bed that night at 9 o'clock, like really early, because again, I have to wake up at 6:30 to get the kids to school that next morning. I think I planned that trip with the last time I was doing trips and, trade shows and stuff like that, I was 25 or so. And I planned that trip with a 25-year-old's mentality and ability to roll and just stay out and wake up early. And I realized that I am 46, and that is not gonna fly. So I might be the lamest guy out there, but I tell you what, I had an amazing time out there. Could have had a better time if I gave myself a little bit more time out there, but wouldn't change it for the world. I had a great time, and I'm glad that I got home. It was a nice, relaxing day the next day. Thankfully, I wasn't all drowsy and kind of hungover, sort of. As a result, I wasn't able to skate, but I did bring my skates out there, brought my helmet, brought all my pads, made my backpack super heavy, but them's is the breaks. At least I had them in case I was able to skate, but who was I kidding? I don't think it was any possibility that I was going to be able to skate out there. Maybe I'd hang out with some friends, but absolutely no way I was going to skate. So that is my bitter cold story. For everybody who I got to meet, thank you so much for coming up and saying hey. I really, really mean it. It means a lot to see everybody out there. It's very weird for me as a kind of like a public figure, and I don't want to be pretentious and, this asshole, right? Sorry, I don't swear on this show, but it meant a lot to me to see everybody that I've spoken to online, and it feels like we all kind of have this bond that you knew a lot about me. And I don't know a ton about you, whoever you are out there watching this. But if we've ever, talked online or chatted, or you've left a like or something like that, it was great to see you in person. And that's not something that I thought that I would ever have, I am not, again, I'm a homebody. I don't hang out, go to parties or meet people or anything like that. So for me to actually see people in person is kind of a weird shock. And I know a lot of you out there are introverts as well. Thank you for coming up. It meant a lot to say hey to me. The next event, so we're going to be doing 2 more events. I'm going to be going to the Crowder Cup. I think it's the Crowder Cup, Crowder Power. I don't know what they're calling it, but it's the event out here in Raleigh. So I'm in Durham. Raleigh is about 30 minutes away. It is at the skate park with my favorite ledge. If you're familiar with my videos, there is the favorite ledge. It is about 18, 20 inches high. It is a nice little curved ledge. There's also a little bowl section that you can skate, but I just love that ledge. They're having an event out there. They had one last year. They're having another one this year. It is April 22nd, maybe? That sounds about right, 22nd. I will be there. So we're going to have a booth. We're going to have a couple booths for all of the brands. So you can see everything. You can meet me. If you are able to make it, I would love to meet you. This is, again, no joking. I actually really like meeting people. So if you are seeing this and you have the ability to come out, it should be a really fun event. The next day, so that's the Saturday, the next day, Sunday, we're going to have an open house here at the warehouse. So you'll be able to come out and skate the mini with me. I probably won't be skating, to be honest, but you'll be able to skate the mini. We'll put the boxes out in the front parking lot like we did last year. We'll have refreshments. We'll have some food. We'll have music. We'll have product so that you can hold it and check it out. Probably have this room set up so you can take photo booth pictures in here. We did that last year. It was a lot of fun. If you're not big into crowds, it might be a little crowded, but it is a great event. There's a lot of people that came by. I think last year we had about 50 or 60 people at one time. It was a busy event. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I got this space so that people can come by and hang out. So this is a great opportunity for you to come on out. April 22nd. Crowder Powder Cup, I think, is what it's called. Crowder Powder Comp. Maybe you can find it on the Instagram and get all the information. But it is coming up fast. And if you haven't booked your tickets yet, please do. I was talking with Chris today, who's the guy that's organizing this event, and he says that there are more people registered now. April, what day is it? My phone die again? March 15th. There are more people registered now, March 15th, than there were the day of the event last year, which is crazy. That means that the community is strong. The event's going to be big. It's going to be really great. So I'm very excited for this. And obviously we're going to have a booth this year. We didn't have a booth last year. I just kind of stopped in and said hey. But we will have a booth so that we can show off all the stuff that we're working on. And obviously would love to meet everybody out there. The second opportunity, if you are not in the East Coast, we are going to be going to the West, going back to Cali. And we will be having a booth over at Blading Cup, which is going to be awesome. I haven't been out to Blading Cup since 2018. We will have a booth for Standard, which is the new boot company. Hopefully we will have samples that we'll be able to share. It's really hard to say. We will bring something that we'll be able to share. I'm hoping that they'll be the samples. The factory said that they would, but it's impossible to predict how long production takes. They are making the molds now, so if the molds get done in time, then we'll have samples. If not, we'll bring the 3D printed samples and we'll actually show you what they look like. But that's the last week of April. So I think it's the 28th through the 30th. Is that right? Yeah. So that's a Friday through the Sunday. I will be there the entire weekend. Probably leave on Sunday because, I got to get back to the kids and everything for drop off at school on Monday. But I will be there. Very excited to see everybody out there in California. I haven't been in California in a long time, so it's overdue for me to get out there. Really, really excited to see everybody. It is going to be a big event. Blading Cup is usually the bigger events. It's not like a Winter Clash level of participation and spectators, but it is definitely a big event. A lot of people come out. If you are in the area, Southern California, pretty easy to get to. Come on out. It'd be great again to meet you. I won't have a full list of all of the products. I'm not bringing everything out there because, flying across country, shipping stuff over to California just to ship stuff back, probably not a good idea. I will probably partner with a shop and get you a little discount on some product if you need it. But the main focus for that weekend is going to be standard. I want to show off the boots and show off everything that we've been working on for this new skate company. So I will be out there at Blading Cup. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a long time since I've been at a Blading Cup. It's been, the COVID thing kind of freaked me out, but I've gotten over that. Flying isn't that bad. And I wear my mask, and I actually did fine for bitter cold. I had a pretty bad sore throat the week following, but I don't think that's related. I think that's due to allergies or something like that. And I did take a few COVID tests, and I was negative. I don't want to pass that on to anybody else. But yeah, it was a really good experience. I'm looking forward to doing more events. Crowder Cup in April 22nd, and then the following week, Blading Cup in Spring Cup. Out in California, April 28th. So hope to see you there. I think it's going to be a really great event. And really looking forward to meeting everybody. All right. So that's my current setup, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have a current setup now. I do hope to skate this weekend. We'll have the warehouse open so that people can come check things out again. And I hope to skate the mini ramp. It's been a bit since I've skated mini ramp. Probably skate flat with the prime frames, flat 56. I really like that. I like the 56 mil on prime frames for skating this mini ramp. It's a really, really good setup. Probably sticking with the them 909s. Really great boot for me, and the RL1s. That's a nice combination for me, the way that I like to skate. All right, before we get started, I want to do a little housekeeping. We did get a new shipment in. I always like to share the things that I'm working on. We've got frames and we've got wheels that came in. So first of all, we're very, very happy that the new John Frum frames just came in. I think these came in on yesterday, the day before. Still in the packaging, but you can see these are the new John Frum frames. They are a Balance 2 black frame, black axles with the big Frum logo across the top. These are the 270s, but we also make a 250, depending on how big your foot is and how long you want your wheelbase. They fit a maximum of 60 millimeter wheels flat. They're designed for skating flat, but you can also skate them anti-rocker really well. I really like this groove for skating anti-rocker. John skates them anti-rocker. I like to skate them anti-rocker, but a lot of people skate them flat, especially with the 58 millimeter wheels. The bullet profile is a really good profile for that. So John's frames came in. We will be shipping frames this week. We've started shipping already. If you ordered a bundle, we also have a bundle with John's Red Eye wheels along with Chad Tannehill's anti-rocker wheels in a custom box with laces. They will be shipping next week, I think. Waiting on the boxes. I've got the wheels, I've got the bearings, I've got everything packed. I'm just waiting on the boxes. That always takes longer than I budget myself to to get the boxes in, but I'm hoping that they'll be here next week. As soon as they get in, I will be shipping them out. But we are shipping frames now if you want to pick up a pair. We also got a restock of the white frames. So let's try to keep black and white in stock. These are the white frames, Balance 2s. They have silver axles. They are electroplated. So rather than chrome plate them or paint them with silver paint, these are electroplated. So what they do is they take a silver material, they put it in a cup of water, and they put diodes in it, and they electrify it so that the material comes out, and they put the axles in, raw axles, and then they electrify it, and it electrically plates itself into the axles. It's a cool experiment. Do a Google search for electroplating if you are curious. Really, really neat way. We do our gold axles and our silver axles that way. The black axles are painted because there's no black materials like that will do electroplating. But that's the way that we do these. They look great. They feel cool. They're nice little shiny feeling, like almost a plating. Anyway, same specs, max 60. They are balanced 2s. They come in white. They come in black. We also have Yondies in stock, but we've had those in stock. These are the brand new ones that just came in. In addition, we brought the wheels in. So you knew that we had our new Chroma 58s. These are in stock now. So they just came in on Friday, I think. They are our new 58 millimeter profile. This is the wheel. It is a 58 millimeter rounded profile. Really great. Pairs nicely with almost any frame that you can find. 58 millimeter is kind of the standard for aggressive wheels. And this is a really good one. They are 90A, which is a really good all-around hardness. Means you can skate them on mini ramp, you can skate them on street, you can skate them on rougher terrain, you can skate them on slippery wood. 90A is a really good middle ground. Not too hard, not too soft, just right. These come in packs of 4. They offer this. They also have a custom box and sticker sheet. You can get them now. They're shipping to shops now. We have them available on our website, so you should be able to pick them up. On that shipment, we always bring in more wheels. So we brought in a restock of the 6590s. These are back in stock. We haven't had these for a few months, but if you're looking for a 65 millimeter wheel to put on your wish frames, or if you want to ride anti-rocker like a big wheel truck, this is a good wheel to do it. 6590, probably the softest that I would go. We tried making 6588s. They were a little squishy, a little floppy. 90 is a really good balance. It is a heavier wheel because there's so much urethane. You might actually feel that, I don't know. But I do like our 65s for cruising around, especially if you can find a frame that takes 65 flat. There's a few of them out there. Really, really great wheel for urban. You know, if you were skating aggressive, but you still wanted to do grinds and stuff. Really, really great setup for that. Flat 65. You know, it's almost as good as a flat 72 for that. But finding a 72 with a nice rounded profile like that, ours isn't that flat. It's more of a rounded bullet. So definitely a great wheel for that. We brought in more 90A wheels. So instead of just doing the 65s, we brought in our 56 at a 90A. So these were available first at 88A. We brought in 92A. This is our new 56 millimeter wheel. This is the wheel that I ride. And again, you should know by now, but full disclosure, I do own 50/50. I made these wheels. This profile was designed for the way that I like to skate. It is a 56 millimeter wheel, 90A. Again, the balance between a little bit of grip, a little bit of slide, more durability, more bounce. 90A is right in the middle. If you don't know what you want to skate, you should get 90A. From any brand, 90A is the way to go. We are also making them in white. So you can get 5690, same new 56 millimeter profile. It is a really great profile. 90A in white urethane, 90A in black urethane. We've been making our 58s. This is the 58 that we make. This is the face profile. This is what we recommend for skating flat. If you want as little wheel bite as possible, it's a really great wheel for that. We've made these in 90A for a while. We're also making them in white now. So you can get 5890 in black, 5890 in white. It's the same beautiful bullety face profile that you've grown to love if you want to skate flat. Available in 90A. Really, really great hardness for all-around skating. It is my preference when I'm skating street or anything outdoors. If I'm skating a skate park or something, I like to go 88A, but I'm also, 170 pounds, so I'm not the heaviest dude. If you were a little bit heavier, definitely 90A will hold up a little bit better. And if you're a little bit lighter, you could go as light as 88 and you'd have a great time. But we're trying to offer wheels in all different colors, all different hardnesses, so long as they're black and white. All different colors, all different hardnesses, because it's fun to experiment with different setups. We've got another shipment coming in. So we've got more wheels on the way. They should be here a month and a half, I think. We're continuing to bring in wheels. I am pretty confident that this summer is going to be great. We've got so many people talking about coming back in, saying that, oh, I've just started skating again after 20 years. It feels like a normal ramp up to a good summer. Really excited for this year. And I think having a quality wheel out there for people to pick up, can't go wrong with that. Is that everything? That is everything. So that's my housekeeping. You can get everything from your local skate shop. Just give them a call, ask, or you can get them from our website, balancedist.com. All right, let me get a little water, and then I will go through some questions. If you have any questions, make sure that you tag Back to Blading, put tag at Back to Blading in the chat so that I can see it. If you're watching this in the future, just leave a comment in the video, or if you're listening on the podcast for that matter. Just leave a comment in the video. You'll see a link in the description in the podcast, and let me know what you've got on your mind. I love answering questions. It's a great way to educate people, and there's some stuff out there that is really hard to find answers to. So if I can help, I would love to be your resource. All right, let's scroll all the way up. All right, Ravenous Pathogen. New boot info, please. This comment this comment left before we even started live streaming. New boot info, please. So what can I say? So we announced, I'm going to be very careful with what I say because I want to make sure that we leak this info the way that we're supposed to so that people are seeing it when they're ready to see it. We announced Standard at Bittercold. Standard is the new skate company. The name gets its meaning from my wall of skates that I've skated and me seeing features in each of these skates that were so good that they should be standard on all skates. So we're going to make a skate that takes all of these amazing features that you can find on all of these different skates and make them standard on our skate. So this will be the skate that has everything that you need, all the best stuff that I've found in other people's skates, and some ideas that we're bringing to the table that are fresh, so that they are a standard, so that you can get a skate that has everything that you want. One example is a raised flat heel. So I am a big proponent of skates that have a flat heel with an internal shock absorber. There are two ways that you can have a skate. One is you can have a raised heel, and perfect example of that is the Majestic 12. Kind of hard to see in this one, but this is a raised heel boot. And what that means is that this area down here is flat, and then up here gets a little bit higher on your foot. I can actually show one of these recreational. Oh, I have this is the best thing ever, actually. The original Lightning TRS. So you can see this is a raised heel boot. You can see that the heel is raised. It's a little bit higher than the front. The reason for that is you want to have a slightly lean forward lean when you're skating. It gives you a little bit more balance, believe it or not. If you look at your shoes, most shoes have a slightly higher heel than they would in the front. And that just keeps you leaning forward a little bit. It's a really natural feeling. You do want that. You want some sort of a raised heel. But it doesn't need to be made out of the material. You can see here perfectly, this line, all of this space is unnecessary. You don't need to have this area filled in with a frame or, heaven forbid, a sole plate. You can use an internal shock absorber. Salomon came out with a design that used an internal shock absorber. I don't have my Salomons here, not within reaching distance, but Salomon's back in 2001, 2000 or so, they had a skate that was a flat heel. And they got around the raised heel issue by including a shock absorber inside. Do I have a shock absorber? I should have a shock absorber at least. Oh, I don't know if I have a shock absorber handy. Oh, here we go. Shock absorber. This is an old SL one. Bad example, big shock absorber. But this creates that 10 millimeter. This is actually probably more like 16, but this creates that raised heel. And that is, for my money, what I love to skate. And the reason is you can make this material out of anything. This is a fairly squishy material. So it'll feel like you're kind of skating, and when you land gaps, you're kind of in a pillowy cloud. You can have this as a more rigid material. You could have this as plastic and just negate the whole shock absorption thing at all. But to have the option to have whatever material back there as you want, that should be a standard. There should be a flat sole in my perfect skate. And that means that you can put in whatever height shock absorber, whatever durometer, whatever thickness, whatever hardness shock absorber you want in the back, and customize that for whatever you want to skate. Maybe you're skating gaps today, or you're skating street and you need a little bit more cushion. You put in something a little more pillowy. Maybe you're skating more of a wizardy sort of thing where you want responsiveness, or you're skating bowls with metal frames and you want every bit of responsiveness that you can get. Maybe you get a harder shock absorber. That should be something that you can decide for yourself versus the skate company saying, no, it's just going to be plastic. So that is an example of something that I think should be standard on all skates. And that is where standard gets its name. We've been working on this boot for a couple of years now. And we started with we've been doing sampling for a while. We've started with the mold for the size 42. It is a brand new mold. So I saw, when we were leaking some pictures on the standard Skate Co. Instagram, I saw a lot of people say, oh, it looks like a them, it looks like a sway, it's just a Colt, whatever. It's a brand new mold. It might look like other skates. It is not based on any other skate. So we're taking aspects of other skates and we're finding things that we like to create our own silhouette. I don't really know if that's a word, but that's what you would call it in sneakers. So I would call it that in skates. We have our own silhouette. It has aspects of other skates that I like. It has a look down from other skates that I like, but it is its own unique silhouette. And it is a completely brand new mold. Mold that's costing a ton of money, but I've been saving up over the last few years of all of the sales that I've made and trying to put that money into a savings account so that I can spend it on this project. Because I feel for this project, I think it's going to be an amazing skate, but it's going to be expensive. Anyway, so it is a completely new mold. Not only a completely new boot mold, but it's a completely new cuff, completely new sole plate, completely new frame, completely new mounting hardware. We are doing a lot of new parts for this skate. Now, a lot of it will be built around standards, obviously the name. So it'll be 8mm, it'll be 8mm axles, it'll be UFS, it'll be a flat sole so that you can put in whatever shock absorbers you like if you have your favorite shock absorbers or whatever. We're not changing those things where they need to be changed. We want to make sure that there are existing standards out there that are really good, and we want to follow those. But from a new part perspective, we are not reusing a boot. It's not an open shell, it's not an open frame, or using a balance frame from 50/50. This is a completely new project, and we've been working really hard on it. So from a timing perspective, you should probably follow the Instagram. That's where we're posting most of our information. We won't share the full skate until probably Crowder Cup. Oh, my light just turned off up there. We probably won't share the full skate until Crowder Cup. I want to make sure that when we share it, it is in a fairly final form. I've got some 3D printed samples that look great, but they definitely are 3D printed samples. And that's what we shared at Bitter Cold. It was in a box that was, with window tint so that you couldn't see in it. But you could see kind of what the skate looked like. And that was the actual skate. So it has, frames, wheels, a liner, all that stuff. But nobody was able to hold it. Nobody was able to, take pictures of it up close because it looks like a 3D printed part. And I'm hoping that we'll have the actual samples for Crowder Cup. And that will be where we'll be able to actually share what the skate looks like. And hopefully, let people try it on. It depends. I don't know if we're going to have enough time or enough samples for everybody to try it on. But that is, I think, a good update for today. Obviously, if you have any specific questions, I can try to answer them as well as I can. But I'm going to dodge them as much as possible because when I'm ready for you to know about things, you will know about things. But know that it is a completely new skate. Know that we are working really hard on the branding of this skate to be as inclusive as possible. We want to make sure that everybody out there can try this skate and feel good about skating these skates. You shouldn't feel like, I don't fit in with this brand. This skate doesn't fit my style. This skate should fit most people's style. If you like clean looking skates. It's also going to be fairly cost inclusive. So we're trying to make this a affordable skate for most people. That means offering it at different levels. So not only will we have it at a ready-to-roll complete skate, but we will also be providing them as a boot only, and we will be providing them as a linerless version. A lot of people out there have their own liners. You know, you've invested $200, $220 or something in Intuition premiums or something like that. I don't expect you to buy this skate complete and then just, you know, throw out the liners. Like it doesn't make me feel good that people would just buy the skates and then never skate the liners. I want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth, that you're able to use all of the parts. Now, our liners are going to be great liners, but they're not going to be Intuitions. So if you're stuck with your Intuitions and you love your Intuitions, there's absolutely no need to buy additional liners that you're not going to skate. You should try skating them, but if you don't want them, if you're set on your Intuitions, you should just get them without the liner and save yourself a little bit of money. We will sell those liners aftermarket, but it's important for me that you have that option so that you're not spending money on skate stuff that you're not actually going to use. I think that's it for tonight. If there's anything else, I will probably say some more in a couple of weeks. We're slowly getting through it. So from a production perspective, we've got the 42 shell and all of the parts, frames, and hardware and stuff. Those are in development now. So we've paid the money. They're working on the molds. I'm hoping to have those for Crowder Cup, which means middle of April. The size 40 is coming along. So we have the 3D print out now that is going for fit testing. We're sending it to some of the skaters that we trust to put their foot in there and tell us what they think so that we can adjust things up or down, make it a little bit wider, make the toe box a little more generous. We want to make sure that this fits as many feet as possible, but it's also true to its size. So the size 40 is out there being tested. I just got the 44 drawings today. So the 44 and the 46, both of those shells, I'm going to start a print probably tomorrow so that I can get that sizing tested. Those are our 4 shells at launch. So it's going to be the 40, 42, 44, 46. We'll have a dual fit liner so that your foot can fit into both of those, or your foot can fit into those, whichever one is closest to you. I understand that this might not fit your feet perfectly. Doing what we can. I think 4 shell breaks is very ambitious, and I think that's enough for most people. They might not be the perfect skates for you, and I wish that they were. I hope that they are, but there are a lot of great skates out there. We're trying to do this our way to fit our ranges of feet as perfectly as possible. It might not be the perfect skate for you, and I fully admit that. You know, I've had plenty of people say, oh, I love this skate, and I love this skate, and it doesn't work for me. That's just the way that things are. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that the sizing makes sense, to make sure that when you buy the skate that your foot actually fits into that skate, and you know that before ahead of time that your foot is going to fit or it isn't going to fit. That is something that we're trying to solve. Very exciting. As you can tell, I've got plenty more to say. As soon as we get the samples, we'll do a Gear Talk and talk about it, and I will share it with everybody. But until then, stay tuned to the Instagram. We will be posting more stuff in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, thanks for the support so far. It's been, starting new projects is always scary, but it's been extremely positive. Even the haters are saying good things, which is very refreshing to me. And you know, the most of the hate that I'm getting is just ill-educated opinions. Oh, it looks like this, it looks like that. You haven't seen the skate. So hold your opinion on what it looks like until you've actually seen it, right? That should be without saying, but you know, you can't say that it looks like a them or a sway or a mesmer without actually holding it in your hands or even looking at a picture of it, right? So anyway, again, thanks everybody for the support. stay tuned to the Instagram. I will post as much as I can, but I'm really, really excited about how we're rolling this out. We've got a lot planned for you, so we're trying to do this right. All right. That was a long answer. Ravenous pathogen, my friend. True Skeet. Congrats on the new skates. Looking forward to seeing them outside of that tinted box. Yes. I don't remember your size, but I do have the 46 sample going up to the compound so that Clark and Sam can try it on. I'm hoping that you are a 46. If not, who knows? But it would be great to get your feedback on this from a fit perspective. Lander says, why don't more companies invest in pro sole plates? That's an interesting question. I don't know that there's ever been a pro sole plate, has there? We've had sole plates that came on skates that were specific to the signature skate. So memorably, I think the Nils Jansson's Rossies that had that black and white smoky Majestic 12, that was a really cool, unique look for a sole plate. Mesmer does pro sole plates, I guess. This being the John Bellino sole plate, it is a standard Mesmer sole plate. So if they ever made a team sole plate, they would probably have this sole plate and then maybe some other drawing or something on the bottom. But technically, I think this would be a John Bellino sole plate. This might be the first pro sole plate that we've had. I might be wrong, and please correct me in the comments if you know of anything else. But I think this might be the first time because we don't really do much for sole plates. Sole plates don't have a lot of options for customization. The mold is kind of set as it is. You can change the color, but I don't know that that makes it a pro model. This, with some sort of a print on it, I think might actually make it a pro model. So this might be the first one. Great question, though. And the fact that nobody's really done it leads me to believe that it's probably more of a production thing versus a demand thing. I think they just don't know how to make a pro sole plate, and now Mesmer's kind of shown us how. Great question. Jacob Butinsky. I remember you really enjoying the Razor shifts with wish frames. Do you have any other flat frame recommendations for the shift? That's a great question. I do really like the wish frames. I think the wish frame on a shift is a really great combination. A couple reasons for that. The shift, and I don't have a pair here, but the shift, if I remember correctly, was a fairly flexy skate. So you're able to get pretty easily boot down on stuff and push yourself down. That means that a taller frame, like the wish frame, can warp a little bit, not warp, you're able to push it down a little bit more so that the height of the wish frame doesn't really become an issue. Additionally, this shift had a wide sole plate. So again, a taller frame, less of an issue. To toot my own horn, I think the Balance 2 is a really great flat frame. We skate them flat 50, I skate them flat 58, and I really enjoy that frame. Not necessarily a flat designed frame, but it's a really good frame for skating flat. A lot of people like the Fluid 5s. Do I have them here? I did. Yes. So these are the Fluid 5s. They came on my Mesmers. A lot of people like these frames for skating flat. My only issue with these frames was the sidewalls come out a little bit wide, and I did end up sliding out on them. But the grind itself, as soon as you break in this groove, I think a lot of people really like it. It's a very chunky frame. I always likened this to a frame that you can DIY. So you make it your own. You go out to a ledge and you skate this frame and you create this groove. They've made this frame with enough material that you can make it however you want. So you can make this into your deep groove, you can make this into your slightly angled groove, whatever you like. There's enough material here that you can really do whatever you like. What else do people skate flat? I think those are kind of the big ones, right? There's not a lot of other really popular flat frames. The Them frame, I think, is another good one. People do skate the Them frames flat. That's a really good frame. I think max there is 58. Most people skate them with 58s, maybe 56s. But yeah, it's an okay frame, I guess. Yeah, I think a lot of people skate them flat. I didn't really like them skating flat, but I don't think I was a great flat skater back then, so I'm not the best person to judge. But I know that a lot of people do skate them flat, and you can get a pretty good deal on them ready to roll. So probably a really good option if you want to try them out. Great question, and I need to skate the shifts again. It's been a long time. Alejandro Castro, hey Law, so excited for Standard Skate Co. Loving my new Portal tee. Also wanted to ask, what's your sports drink of choice for sessions? Good question, and thanks for the love. Sports drink. I don't really drink sports drinks. I do have Gatorade here at the warehouse, in case I start feeling really I don't know, sometimes you just feel worn out. I do drink a Gatorade, and I have the little Gatorade bottles. I try not to drink sugary drinks very often, so probably a bad idea, but I do drink Gatorade from time to time. During the summer, especially when I'm skating marsh where it's really hot, I drink my big water bottles. I drink these with an Element electrolyte packet. They are a powder that I get a citrus flavor, and I pour the powder in with ice and water, shake it up, and then it tastes kind of like Gatorade without the sugar. It is good for recovering those electrolytes. I don't know how much I actually believe in all of that, but I feel better after I drink it, so I recommend doing it. I think they're cheaper than a bottle of Gatorade too, so it's probably not a bad thing to invest. I think I buy them in 12 packs for $10 or something like that. So really, really good option. Yeah, usually I just drink water. I always bring my big water bottle with me whenever I go to a skate park, and I try to get through it while I'm out there. That's one of those hockey traditions that I had. I always had hockey, big water bottle with a big straw that I could squirt into my mouth. I used to try drinking coconut water, and I felt like that worked pretty well, but it was expensive, and it didn't seem like it was really that big of a deal. So that's what I do. I don't know that there's any special energy drink that you should try, but whatever works for you, so long as you stay hydrated, I think that's a really good plan. Brandon Miskell, why did you name your skate company after a BMX company that had been around 25 plus years? I honestly never heard of the BMX company. So when we were trying to come up with a name, we looked for, we brainstormed a bunch of names, and Standard was one that had a story behind it. I wanted to make a skate that was, using features that should be standard on my skate. And we did Google searches, and I couldn't find anything about Standard skates. Looked at Standard skateboards. There's a skateboard shop called Standard, but there was nothing like skating. Never even dawned on me to look into BMX. But there is a BMX company named Standard. Never heard of it. Again, wasn't deliberate. When we launched, the logo looked a little similar to one of the logos that they've used on one of their frames. So we've changed the logo so that there's no confusion. And it is what it is. Naming is hard. Finding collisions out there. There are a lot of people who start companies, and they have companies that are named names that I'll never find. So definitely wasn't deliberate. I do think it's a great name. We are sticking with the name. I think Standard Skate is different than a bike company, but again, it wasn't deliberate. If it were, I wouldn't have done it. But thank you for bringing it up. We had a bunch of people that I mentioned it, and I was like, ugh, because we were at Bitter Cold when I heard about it, and I was like, damn, how did we not see this? So anyway, that's the story behind that. It's unfortunate. Lander, any tips for starting Twitter Spaces besides just do it? Really like the way that you do your shows where I can learn to talk like that. So I don't do any Twitter Spaces. I don't know really, I don't do much Twitter anymore. It's kind of fallen to crap. I am on Mastodon. I do log into Twitter from time to time and just check things out. It's a good place to find, news, breaking news and stuff, but that's really about it. From a perspective of talking and, getting your news out there, your word out there and everything. YouTube is great. I love doing YouTube lives. It's always a great opportunity to meet with people. Instagram Live, also great. I don't do enough Instagram Lives, but I think that's a really good way to connect with people out there. We do the podcast. Ben and I have done the podcast for a few years now, and it's less frequent now that I'm extremely busy, but that is a good opportunity to do it too. And that's something that you can record in advance. You can edit it down to only the message that you want to convey, and then you can publish it and share that podcast with everybody. I think those are the best ways to do it. I don't think Twitter is very big for rollerblading. I think you would get more people tuning in if you did an Instagram Live. That's probably the best place for you. Good question. Sean Marco Lewis, does material of the sole plates as important as the shape? Just a bit curious. We will get into sole plates in a little bit, but yes, absolutely. You want to make sure that you have a good material for your sole plates, something that doesn't wear down super fast, something that doesn't wear down at all. We want something in the middle that's going to give you a nice groove so that you can lock on a little bit better. And a little bit of fast. There's some materials out there that people use that might not be the fastest, and you can really tell if the soles are sticky. People say the soles are sticky. There's a lot that has to do with design, but also material has a lot to do with it too. Good question. David Quist, can't wait to see the new skates. Will more shirts be available soon? And thank you for the postcard. Glad you could get the postcard. We did send out a few postcards to people. Glad you were able to get one. We did make a limited run of this shirt for the Bitter Cold Trade Show. I think we have a few left in extra large now, but that's it. We will have a new shirt for Crowder and for Blading Cup. So yes, we will have more shirts. Come on out to the events. We'll probably have whatever's left on the website, so stay tuned for that. And again, Instagram is the way to go. When we actually launch, we do plan on having more soft goods. So this is something that I think we need. I think blading could use some more soft goods out there that are, again, speak for everybody, that people can wear, and higher quality. We're trying to make sure that our shirts are really high quality, and anything that we do is going to be good quality that you actually would want to wear. So yeah, definitely stay tuned if you're looking for soft goods. And the next drop will be at the Crowder Cup. Austin Paz, what are your dogs' names? Great question. So I will actually walk you through our whole farm. So it's not a farm, but I call it a farm because we actually do have chickens. I don't know the chickens' names. The girls made the chickens' names. I am the farmer of the house. I am the guy that has to deal with all the horrible side of having pets. So when we had chickens in the past, I was the guy that had to scoop them up and throw them in a trash bag when they died. That's not fun. And I don't want to name something that I'm just going to scoop into a trash bag and throw into the dumpster when they die. So I don't learn any of the chickens' names, but my kids have named the chickens. We have 6 chickens. They're egg-laying chickens. They've been around for a year and a half now, I think. The dogs, so we have 4 dogs. Our oldest is Luna. She is a, what is she? She is a Labradoodle, I think. No, she's a Golden Doodle, not a Labradoodle, Golden Doodle. So she's a black mixed golden and poodle. And she was our first dog. She's a great, great girl. That was our first entry to what would a big pet be. We've always had cats, so this was what would a big pet be? Then we got our second, who is Maggie. She is a rescue lab. So she's a brown chocolate lab, I think they call them, that we got as a rescue because we felt like Luna needed a friend, so we got a second dog. We have Penny. She is white. She's kind of like a mix of a pit bull and like a beagle, kind of. She's got a little beagle nose to her. She's a really sweet girl. She's got anxiety, which is crazy. She kind of lives by herself. She does her own thing. We have to give her medication because she freaks out whenever anybody gets there, to a point where she almost freezes up, which sucks. But yeah, she's kind of a loner. She kind of does her own thing. And we just got Knox, who is he is also a black lab, but he's a big boy. He's like black lab and a lot of rot. The last three were all rescues, and Luna we got from a breeder. Knox is going to be a big boy. He's already 60 pounds. He's just all muscle, and he's like a wrecking ball. He runs into things, knocks things over. He chases cats. He's a nightmare. We also have 4 cats. We have brothers Rocky and Simon. They are our oldest cats. They are 12 years old now, so definitely looking old. They are like a brownish, like textured cat. I don't know breeds of cats, but that's what they look like. We have Atlas, who is a tuxedo cat. We found Atlas at, I think it was our neighborhood email server said, hey, I found a cat at the mall living by itself. Like, does anybody know how to take care of cats? And my wife took him in, and we cared for him. That's Atlas. And then the youngest is Winnie. She was a rescue. I think she was at the shelter. She has some eye damage, and she's got this weird nose that's kind of like pushed in, kind of like a bat. But she's a really sweet girl. I think she is 8 months old now, maybe 9 months old. Atlas is maybe a year old. So they're fairly young, and then the older cats are older. That is our house. We don't have any fish anymore. We used to have a really nice fish tank. We don't have birds or any other animals, but it is definitely a busy house. So thank you for asking. I've never talked about the pets before, but I do care about animals, and I hope you do too. Wyco Booter, thanks for taking my money at BCSD. It was great meeting you. Thank you for giving it to me. Yeah, we had a really good booth. I feel like people were wanting to support, obviously, but I felt like it was a good opportunity for you to actually see product. We 90s kids take for granted that there were skate shops out there that you could walk into and you could try things on and you could pick up frames, you could pick up wheels, and you could say, oh, this is what they look like. I love that aspect of events, bringing things to people and saying, this is what I've been working on, and them saying this sucks or this is awesome or whatever, and paying me money for them. That is an amazing feeling. So thank you for giving me your money. Thank you for coming out and saying hey, and I hope you come out to the next events. It's something that I'm looking forward to doing more often. Alejandro Castro wondering if sole plates and frames should paired by their hardness to create an even groove between them. I've worn through multiple them soles without even denting my prime frames. That is an excellent question. I've never even thought about that, but I do think there's something to be said about having a similar hardness for your sole plates and your frames so that they do wear evenly. You don't want that Royale groove to start getting steeper and steeper because your frames are getting taller and taller because the groove into your sole plate is getting deeper and deeper. You know what I mean? I don't know that that's going to make much of a difference. Thankfully, nowadays we live in a world where sole plates are fairly replaceable and you can get new ones in different colors all the time. So not too stressed on it. And sole plates are what, $60 or so? Probably go through a sole plate. I don't know how often you skate, but probably once a year or so. Much better than buying a brand new skate. That's the way we used to do it. And a lot of these skates up here, they didn't have aftermarket sole plates, so you couldn't even replace them. It was just, this is what you get and you're stuck with it. Pablo's Skates is the standard boot, flat or raised heel. Also, we'll be releasing internal dimensions of the shells. I did speak about that. It is a flat boot with an internal shock absorber. We will be releasing the internal dimensions. So I don't have anything to share yet, but it is important for me that, as I was just saying, that we don't have as many shops nowadays. It is important to me that I can give you as much of a shop experience as possible without buying the skates, without going into a shop, without leaving your home. That's difficult to do, but there's nothing worse than buying a pair of skates, putting them on your feet, and them not fitting. Either they're too small or they're way too big. I think we can solve that problem And we will be releasing some more information about that in the next couple of weeks. It is something that I really want to tackle. And again, I think should be standard for all brands. You should list your internal dimensions, not the outside. Nobody cares how long your shell is. We want to know what the inside is, from heel to toe, maybe even width. Width should be fairly like, whatever the medium width is, but heel to toe, so that I can measure my liner, my favorite liner, and say, okay, it's not going to fit. Or, okay, it's going to fit. I can put my liner in there. And then that to me is the way that it should be. That's, the standard for how I feel skate sizing should be. Stay tuned. More information. Pablos, will the standard boot look weird if skated without the sole plate for Wizard, or is it designed to work with the sole aesthetically? Are there weird mold lines if skated without? Yeah, you should skate it with the sole plate. I don't know how it will function without the sole plate. Again, we haven't skated them yet. I don't know that it will be thick enough for you to skate without a sole plate. There are a few boots out there you can skate without a sole plate. One of them being the Seba CJ. This is the CJ. This is a carbon shell. This is a flat sole boot. Take off this sole plate and it's completely flat underneath. This is the skate of choice for people doing Wizard skating, which is aluminum frame on the bottom, bigger wheels, doing carves, doing spins, doing tricks on the ground, versus, more grinds and stuff like that. The way that they're able to do this, first of all, this carbon is thick. It's a fairly thick carbon. Secondly, there is a metal plate underneath this lining and on top of the carbon. So when you mount your frame onto this boot, you're actually mounting it into a metal plate inside the boot, inside the shell between the lining and the carbon. That gives this a lot more rigidity. This is an anomaly. Not every skate is like that. I think the factions are like that. So this is the Faction Tactical V1. I think these also have the internal plate inside. It is a carbon shell. I think you can skate these without the sole plates. In fact, I have skated them without the sole plates. I skated them with the Kaiser Element 90s. This boot wasn't perfect for me, but I didn't feel like there was any issue with responsiveness. I will say that our boot is designed for aggressive. You can definitely, get up there. You can definitely skate it for wizardy stuff, but I don't think, and again, I haven't skated them yet, but as designed, I didn't design this boot to be skated without the sole plate. The reason is the sole plate gives you a different hardness of material and a lot more stiffness that you need for skating. So you've seen some skates in the past that just have a boot and the UFS bolts go directly into the boot. And the sole plate isn't part of that. So either the sole plate is on the sides or the sole plate is around it, like a donut. That means that the UFS bolts are attaching directly to the boot being a flexier material. That's not good. That means that if you're skating without a sole plate, first of all, it doesn't matter because the sole plate isn't involved. But if you're skating without a sole plate, you're going to get flex because this boot material is flexy. Any boot material, you can look at the Majestic 12, you can see I can flex this boot. You don't want that flex if you're skating, a frame directly onto the boot. The way they get around it is with carbon, or they have metal on the inside. I don't know that there's any plastic boots. I think the Seba SX2, the Seba CJ2 is the plastic boot, but they probably have metal in there as well. There's not a lot of plastic boots out there that I would recommend skating without a sole plate, and the reason is this sole plate is hard. This sole plate is not going to flex. This sole plate creates that flat, hard surface so that you mount your UFS frames onto it and you don't have any flex. You want the flex up here, you don't want the flex down there. That's the way that I'm looking at it. If you skate our boots without the sole plate, you'll probably be okay. I don't think it's going to be the optimal ride. It's not what we're designing it for. I want our boots to be a little flexy up there because, you know, it's an aggressive boot. It should be flexy. It should wrap around your foot a little bit. It should squish over a little bit when you're doing topsides or doing royales. You shouldn't have that super solid responsiveness. That's not what we're aiming for. But we will see. That's what boot testing is all about, material testing, all of that stuff. Aesthetically, it'll probably look fine. You know, there are definitely some treatments that we integrate the sole plate into the boot so that it looks really nice. It'll probably look weird if that sole plate isn't there, but you know, you can always get a Sharpie and color it in if you want to. It's your boot, you know, you can make them look however you want. Great question. I hope that I can share more about that a couple of weeks, probably maybe a month. But it's definitely something that we've put a lot of work into this boot, and we've thought of a lot of things, and we've said no to a lot of things. And one of those things is we don't want people skating them without the sole plate. We might offer a smaller sole plate. You know, if you think the sole plate is too wide and it might get in the way of wizard skating, we can always offer a more slim sole plate. But there needs to be some sort of a hard material under there so that your frame has a nice solid base to mount to. Great question. Christopher Foley, thank you for shipping out all of my orders today. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry that it took so long. Your frames finished up this weekend, and then I had a hard time getting over to the warehouse so that I could clean them up and ship them out. We actually had one of your frame walls right at the last minute. I don't know what happened, but something got jammed, and it shifted like in the groove. So if you look at like the groove of this skate or this frame, it shifted. So, you know, it prints ding, 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 ding like that. It shifted over by like a mil. So this groove was like a little bit off, which was super weird. Only a little bit of it. And unfortunately, it impacted the entire frame. So I had to reprint it. That's the way 3D printing works. Sometimes, you know, usually it works good. I'm probably 1 out of 5 gives me some issue, but usually I can catch it before it's too bad and not waste too much filament. That was a weird one that failed right at the end. But yes, you should have them by the weekend, which is going to be awesome. Looking forward to seeing some setup pics. Scrolling. All right. There's more questions. I'm losing my mind. Nope. Man, there's a lot of questions, guys. Oh, there it is. Okay. So next questions. Let me talk about sole plates. I see your question, Toro. I'm probably going to lose all of these, but I will leave it here. It shouldn't update, but maybe it will. If I lose it, I apologize if I lose your question. The way that YouTube does things, it's kind of hard to keep track. And I need to get some sort of an application that will log all of the questions, but I haven't done that yet. But let me talk a little bit about sole plates. So I have been knee-deep in sole plate research the last year and a half, 2 years or so. You know, we're making a boot, and I want to make sure that the sole plates are the way that I want them. You know, I'm selfishly making this boot for the way that I like to skate. And I feel like if I optimize it for the way that I like to skate, there will be a lot of people out there, like you maybe, who wants to get this skate because it's going to be perfect for the way that you like to skate. I've put dozens and dozens of videos out there reviewing different skates, reviewing different sole plates, so you know where I stand on what sort of sole plates I like. Tonight I wanted to talk about what makes a sole plate great, what the differences of sole plates are. If you have a pair of skates, can you update your sole plates? Can you get new sole plates to replace your old sole plates? And can you upgrade them to make them even better? Now, there's a few things that I want to, put out there. I'm not going to talk bad on anybody's sole plates. Our sole plate is definitely good for what I do, but there are a lot of great sole plates out there. Most of the sole plates are good. Some of the sole plates are great. And I don't think I've ever skated a sole plate that was not good. There are things that they could improve, but every sole plate, whatever sole plate you've got out there, if you've got a skate and it's got a sole plate, it's probably a good sole plate. You're probably able to do all of your tricks. I made a video doing sole tricks, and explaining soul tricks and the different soul trick variations and how I go about learning soul tricks. And I did all of those on Majestic 12s. And Majestic 12s have the smallest soul there is. I think I have my calipers here. So these are notoriously the smallest soul plates. On the soul side, this is 36.4 millimeters wide for the Majestic 12 soul plate. Putting that in perspective, if you look at the standard them soul plate, actually this is the old one. Let me get the newer one. Was that 36.5? Where's the thems here? This is a fairly small soul plate too. You know, people say that the them soul plates aren't super wide. They just widened them. Even bigger. There. So these them soul plates are 39 millimeters. So huge difference between the thems and the Majestic 12s. The Majestic 12s being the smallest soul plate, I was still able to do all of my soul tricks on the Majestic 12s. The soul plates that are on your skates are fine. Preface everything that I say tonight with the soul plates on your skates are fine. You can do all of the tricks with the soul plates that you have on your skates at my ability level. Now, I will say that I'm a fairly experienced rollerblader. I'm not a great rollerblader, but I'm good enough that I can do all of my tricks on any of these skates. There are a few skates that are more difficult than others. Some of them are going to be easier than others. Some of them I prefer more than others. But you can do it on any skate that you've got. So don't watch this video and say, oh, that's why I'm not able to do a soul grind. No, you can't do a soul grind because you're not skating enough. You're not practicing enough. 10,000 hours or so. That's how, you don't have to do 10,000 hours. But in order to get a good soul grind, you need to skate a lot. You need to get used to doing it. Don't blame your equipment. Don't say that it's because your soul plate sucks. Your soul plate is probably fine. You just need to skate more. And that is something that I'm always, the first to say, oh, this soul is slow, this soul is fast. Ultimately, though, you can still do your tricks. So with that being said, there are, let's say, 3 types of soul plates out there. And I'll break it down into 3 buckets. First of all, there are custom soul plates. So these are soul plates that are made specifically for the boot. This was the way that they were back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s. These skate companies made soul plates for their skates because there was no standards at all. A good example of that is the old, well, hell, let's throw it all the way back. Let's throw it back to the Remedies. So this is the Remedies. These are the old Remedies. I'm sure a lot of you out there are saying, oh my God, I can't believe I have a pair of Remedies. I do. Take a look at these crazy soul plates. So this soul plate has a little slider area up here. This isn't even the V1. I think the V1 didn't have these slider areas, but a little slider area up here. And then the big juice sort of system back there with an angle and the chunky sole. Not a very wide sole, but very chunky sole. Another example of a custom sole. Let's see, where's my other, looking for my other fifth element. Oh, I can't find it. Well, let's take these Bauer Civilities. These are the Bauer Civilities. Back in the 90s, they had these kind of a sole plate, kind of not. They didn't really know what they were doing back then. Fast forward to today, we still have custom sole plates out there. Not everything is a standard. There are custom sole plates out there. Probably the most recent weird one is the FR UFR skate. So I still haven't skated these. I know. But these things look like a fairly standard sole plate. However, on the bottom, it's crazy. Look at this thing. So the way that this thing mounts, it's got this raised heel area that you can mount a frame directly onto it. And then this sole plate has this weird raised ledge area. It's actually a flat sole, which is so weird. Very unique. I'm not going to talk about these tonight. This is its own little bucket of unique one-offs. There are a bunch of skates out there that fall into this category. If I don't mention them tonight, it's because it's kind of a weird one-off. You can't really do much with these. You can get new ones from the manufacturer if you're lucky, different colors, replacements, things like that. But they are custom for their skates. They are not compatible with anything else. They're not like anything else. They are their own thing. Let them be their own thing. If you like these skates, commit to these skates. You're not going to be able to do much with them. For everyone else out there, you can stop listening if you're one of those people. For everybody else out there, we're looking at two different buckets. The first bucket is the raised heel. That is going to be your Majestic 12. That'll be your Mesmer. That'll be your Them 909. That'll be your Sway. That'll be anything that has a raised heel in the back. So my favorite of these is the USD Sway. This is a version 1 of the USD Sway. And what makes this a unique shell is that this back area here is taller than the front area here. So this is very thin. You can see how thin this is. If you just use the webbing or the waffling in the inside, you can see that the waffling disappears up here. My fingers are almost touching. Meanwhile, in the back, you can see there's a lot of depth in this waffle. I can fit my finger all the way in there. You can see very thick. That is a raised heel. So it's usually around 10, maybe 12 millimeters higher in the back than it is in the front. And you'll find a lot of skates fall into this category. Most of the plastic skates fall into this category. On the other side, you've got a flat heel. So that's going to be your USD Carbons, your carbon free. That's going to be your Seba skates. That's going to be your God's team skates, or your what are they? The USD 7s used to be them. Kind of your rollerblade blank, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Anything with a flat sole. USD 7, probably the most popular of the flat sole plates. Why is this a flat sole? Because these are exactly the same. Front and back, completely flat. It mounts to the bottom of the boot. Where's my boot? Uh-oh, I lost my boot. Oh, here it is. This is the old USD 7. This is where this sole plate came from. I will unscrew these UFS bolts real quick. You can see 2 UFS bolts. Sole plate comes off. Completely flat on the bottom. So this sole plate, completely flat on the bottom, mounts right on. Minimal amount of plastic, optimized for ride height, for internal shock absorption. And then the frame mounts directly to the UFS bolts. Typically these go straight through. I don't think there's any that don't go straight through to the boot. So they'll go right into the boot, gives you a really good responsive ride. UFS bolt straight into the boot into a T-nut, keeps your frame on there. Either they sandwich this sole plate between the frame. Where's my Mesmer frame? Already making a mess. Ugh. Either this sole plate sandwiches between, so the UFS bolts keep this sole plate mounted to the boot, and then the UFS bolts go directly in and they go through the boot. Or, in the case of the USD 7, there are screws that this sole plate mounts to the boot, and then you mount the frame to the sole plate. USD Carbon goes straight through. USD Carbon Free, the God's FM4, those go straight through. The Seba, they go straight through. They don't have any way to mount this sole plate to the boot. USD 7, the Adapt Stealth, the Faction, Tactical V1, those are all examples of the sole plate that mounts to the boot, and then the frame mounts to the boot as well. My opinion, that is a preferred way of doing it. You want this sole plate to be as solid as possible. You want as little flex as possible. If you are going to do a flat-soled boot, and if you have a flat-soled boot, you want that responsiveness. That is why people like, Sways or Thems, because they have all of those screws on the bottom. It is a really solid ride because that sole plate is mounted to the boot. You're not getting anything. None of those raised heel boots have just the sole plate UFS bolts that go into the boot. It's not even an option. It's only found on flat sole boots. So if you are riding a flat sole boot, having a way to mount this sole plate to your boot, you got the right boots. So those are the two main buckets. We got a raised heel and we've got a flat. What's best? Well, it really just depends. Ultimately, and I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Best boot out there for your skating is the one that fits you the best. If you find that you fit the USD Sway, but you don't like the sole plate, you found a good boot that fits. Now we just need to find you a sole plate that you like. There are ways, how do I phrase this? So you can make anything fit anything. As we've seen on numerous occasions, there are blade custom setups that will make anything work. You don't necessarily have to put in that much effort to upgrade your sole plate though. When you're working with a flat sole boot, typically flat sole plates will fit on most flat sole boots. So I was showing you this USD 7. This is a flat sole boot. This USD 7 comes with the USD 7 sole plate. But you can also put on, is this the right side? This is the right side. I think this is the right side. Oh, it's the opposite side. Let me see if I can find it. You can also put on other sole plates. Oh, I don't have it. It's right here. Is this the right one? Yeah. So this is the USD Carbon. It is also a flat sole boot. I will unscrew this sole plate. I think. Unscrew this sole plate. And again, as I was saying, this USD Carbon, the sole plate only mounts to the boot using UFS bolts. It doesn't actually mount to the boot at all. There's no holes in this sole plate. Except for the UFS, you're not going to mount this sole plate to the boot. But you could take this sole plate, if you like it, and if you wanted to put it on a plastic boot, with a little bit of modification, a little dremeling, and line it up with the UFS bolts, and it kind of fits out of the box. Kind of looks okay. The difference is most of these sole plates have a slight contour on the outside that wrap nicely around the boot. You would need to take some of this contour down so that you could fit it onto all of the boots. Not all sole plates are like that. If you look at the Adapt sole plate, this is an Adapt sole plate for the Adapt Stealth. This sole plate fits absolutely fine on here. So this is the Adapt Stealth sole plate on a USD 7. You could see it fits really nicely. Similarly, the Faction sole plate, if you like the Faction sole plate, this also uses mounts to mount this sole plate to the boot, which I'm not going to be removing now because I didn't prepare for that. But this is the example that I'm talking about where you've got the sole plate mounts to the boot and then the UFS bolts go straight through the sole plate into the boot. Gives you a much more solid ride, much more rigid. This is the way that it should be. These sole plates are very unique. They're wide, they're very square in the heel. Because this boot is wide, you would be able to get these sole plates, you could even get them aftermarket in different colors, and put them on your USD 7 or your USD Carbon or your FM4. Whatever skate you've got with a flat heel, you can use these because they are fairly wide. You can use these flat sole plates and put them on there. A lot of people ask, what sole plates can I put on my skates? Well, if you've got a flat sole, you're in luck. You can put almost any sole plate on there, so long as you have a little bit of patience with a Dremel, because it is completely flat. The mounting surface is completely flat. It's always going to be flat because it's a flat sole boot. As we jump into the raised heel, it gets a little bit more complicated. So the raised heel isn't always 10 millimeters. Sometimes the heel is a little bit taller, sometimes a little bit shorter. 10 millimeters is kind of the average. 12 millimeters I've seen, 14 millimeters I've seen. It varies. You're going to need to put some sort of shim under there if you want to compensate for a different ride height or a different height difference for a sole plate. I've done a little bit of modification and made some of my custom skates fit different sole plates. Good example is these Thems. I got these communities. So this sole plate that came with it is this Them sole plate. And again, like we were talking about the sway, you can look at the bottom, you can see the waffling. This is a way to fill out the space but make it lighter. You can see that it's much thinner in the front than it is in the back. But these USD Sway sole plates, my favorite sole plates, very similar, right? Should fit. And in fact, they do fit. So a lot of people would take the USD Sway sole plate and they would put it on their 909. This was before the 909 had their improved sole plates, the new ones that they had. I did this modification. It did not take too long at all. All that you need to do is get one of these Sway sole plates, do a little bit of dremeling on the inside of this sole plate, maybe about 20 minutes of work. And then you go on the bottom, drill new holes, because you're going to need to mount this sole plate to your boot. Drill new holes in, mount them with the T-nuts. And then you put your UFS frame right on, and it fits like a glove. And these skated really nicely. I didn't like the cuffs, but these skated really nicely. It was a really, really good upgrade. And again, you know, you buy the sole plate for $50 or so, takes 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes of work, and you've got a brand new ride. Any skate out there can do this with a little bit of work, some a lot of work. But if you have a raised heel boot, you can find a sole plate that you can make work. Again, examples are the Them 909, the USD Sway, the Majestic 12, the Fifth Element, the Mesmer. What are the other raised heel boots out there? I think that's it for now. There are probably a bunch of raised heel boots that I'm forgetting, but those are the main ones that I'm thinking about right now. All of those are fairly compatible. It just depends on how much work you want to put into it. Raised heel is very unique because they always want to contour around the boot. You're going to need to Dremel that out a little bit to make it fit properly, but you can make anything work if you've got patience and a Dremel. As far as design is concerned, you know, sole plates are sole plates. As I mentioned at the top of this talk, there are good sole plates, there are bad sole plates, but ultimately you can do all your tricks with sole plates, with whatever sole plates you've got. Width of a sole plate and depth of a groove. Those are the two things that we usually talk about. And looking at this USD Sway, again, my favorite sole plate, width of the sole plate, that refers to how wide the sole is. So it's the distance from the UFS channel, right there, the distance from this channel to the widest part of the sole. And in this case, this is 42.5. It was slightly worn down, so it might be 43, but 42.5 or so. That is the width of this sole. And why does the width matter? Well, the width matters when you're jumping on sole tricks or when you're doing topside tricks. You need a little bit of a lip in order to catch on. So if you're jumping on a sole, you want to be able to ride right on the sole. If you're jumping on a topside trick, you're on your frame and you're pushing in, you want this sole plate to stop you from sliding all the way out. So width is important, but the wider the sole plate is, the more difficult it can be to skate ledges and get over a sole trick when you're skating ledges. Might be hard to illustrate, but if you are skating a smaller sole plate, like a Majestic 12, it is easier for you. Yeah, this one works. It is easier for you to get over like this. And a good proper sole trick, you don't want to stand up and just do soles like this. You want to roll your foot over. We used to call it boning it over. I don't really know where that name came from, but you'd bone your foot over. You would get on top of that ledge, and this is the balance point, because a ledge is flat. You know, if you're on a rail, you can get right on top of it because the rail is round. But if you're on a ledge, you got to get over that thing. And this was what we would call boning over on a sole trick. And it's much easier to do if your soles are smaller. So boning over on a sole trick, super easy on a skinnier sole. If you're skating coping, if you're skating a rail, it's going to be probably easier on a wider sole. They both work. You know, I've proven that you can skate whatever you want at whatever ability level you're at. But if you're looking for the easiest way, that's some tips to take with you for if you're picking out a new skate, for example. We could talk a little bit about the groove. So I don't know when they started coming out, but every sole plate has its own little groove. The groove usually is for royales. They used to call it a backslide plate. I think that was something that Razors made famous back in the super flat days. They would have a backslide plate, and there was a little replaceable area that some Razors skates would have. I think they patented it, so that's why they probably called it out. But it was a replaceable area with a little bit of groove so that when you would get boot down on a royale, you would have that lock area that you would grind on. Most skates nowadays, that groove area is built into the sole plate. You don't grind on the boot as much. You grind on the sole plate. Most of these sole plates have a really nice little groove. So this again is the sway. You can have all different types of grooves. This is a nice little pocket groove, little concave action there. The USD 7, a bit wider of a groove, much more wide compared to the USD sway. You can see the two examples. The thems had, where did they go? Here they are. So the thems back in the V2, V3, they had this little kind of like a notch that was cut out. And now the thems have more of a rounded groove. This is the V3 sole plate, more of a rounded groove. There are some that aren't aligned perfectly with the groove. An example would be the Majestic 12. So the Majestic 12 is also actually a little off center. So you can see this is the Majestic 12 sole plate, and the groove is actually more angled like that. Instead of straight up and down, it's angled like that. Now, that's how we all learned how to do royale tricks back in the days. And the reason for that is those skates, whether you're on TRS Access, see it's a little bit angled like that, or whether you were on the rollerblade Patrons, Dirks or whatever, you can see they were angled like that. Or all the way back to TRS, which nobody really did super good royales on. But if you were able to do royales on this, it would be very diagonal into that. That is how a lot of us learned how to do groove tricks and learned how to do royales. And a lot of people still love doing them. I would argue that for unities, it's probably an optimal way to sit because your toes are a little bit more natural than completely tucked and pulled up. But most skates nowadays, the groove lines up perfectly with the frame so that when you jump on a rail, you are perpendicular to the rail doing a royale. If you're doing a unity, you are perpendicular to the rail doing a unity. Or a Savannah, I'm going to go there. What else is there to say about sole plates? So materials are often changed between runs. It's hard to get a consistent sole plate. Some brands stick with the same material. Some brands like to experiment with materials. It's very hard to tell what materials are going to work well for you or not. Most are injection molded. Most use a glass-filled nylon. So most are going to slide fairly well. There are a few exceptions, one being Adapt. Adapt makes their sole plates out of a machined material. I think this is Delrin, it might be UHMW. The benefit to it is that on ledges, this material slides amazingly. It is a self-lubricating plastic, which means that it will continue to make it fast while you're grinding on it instead of slowing it down. You see this material used a lot in assembly lines and conveyor belts where boxes and parts are running along a line and they hit the side of some plastic thing. That plastic thing is UHMW. That's where it came from. The positive to that, it's going to slide like butter on ledges. The negative, it can be a little slow and sluggish on rails. It's also softer, so you're going to wear down a little bit faster, potentially warp it a little bit because it is a softer material. But again, if you can replace it for, 60, 70 bucks, I don't know how much these are, but that's not a bad price if you want to invest in something that's going to last, going to give you a better skating experience. I think that is everything on sole plates. So the answer for everybody asking, will my sole plates fit? Or can I upgrade the sole plates for this? Or can I put this sole plate on this? The way I would answer that is if you have a flat heel boot, odds are any flat heel sole you can fit on there. You just need a little bit of patience and a little bit of dremeling. If you have a raised heel boot, odds are you're going to be able to make it work, but it's going to be a lot more work. Probably not worth swapping out if you have a raised heel boot. If you have a flat sole, you can definitely experiment all the different sole plates out there. All right, that is everything that I wanted to say about sole plates. I hope that covered anybody's questions out there. Again, if you have any questions or notes for follow-up, please let me know. Comments, chat, whatever. I am learning a lot about the different parts that I never really thought about. And it's been really interesting to experiment and learn about them. I've skated every sole plate out there now. And I know what I like and what I don't like. And, I hope that you like your soles. There might be a better sole plate out there for you. If you can find a boot that you really like, maybe you can upgrade the sole and find something that will be even better. All right, let me get a little bit of water. And I will scroll through the questions. I've got a few up now. I'll answer those and then probably have to dip out. It might reset and everything. YouTube gets a little funky after we've been going on for a while. And we've been going on for what, an hour and 45 minutes? So definitely a great show. And again, thank you all for joining. It's been great so far. All right, Pouring Blue. Oh, hey, Tora. What wheel color will come on the standard skates? I will not tell you yet, but we will have good quality wheels. They won't be China pour that you would get on an OEM that will blow up. They'll be good quality wheels. Colors are going to change. That's all that I can say right now, but you will see soon. T'Chaka, oh hey Chaka, how are you? What do you think about raised heel UFS frames? Could be used for aggressive one day. Raised heel UFS frame. So a raised heel can't really be UFS. A UFS is flat. There's no way around it. Raised heel, like 165 mount, maybe like an endless frame or one of those Icon Decode frames. That is a raised heel frame, and that is a 165 mount, or it could be a Trinity mount. Those are the two standards out there. There's a 195 as well, but nobody really skates those, at least more speed skating, I think. Could they be used for aggressive? They could, but you wouldn't want to. You want a lower center of gravity for aggressive. You want a flat sole for doing sole tricks. I think you could get away with it, but I don't think anybody plans on doing that. I've seen the Mushroom Lady guys playing around with the Rossi's 96s, is that what they're called? 1996s? Which is a recreational skate with a recreational frame. And it looks fun. They're loving the skating of it, but they're definitely missing sole tricks, They need one of those CDS heel plates in order to get soles locked on. I think it has potential. I just don't see the benefit yet. So I think a flat UFS frame is the way to go for aggressive. Toasty, is the standard boot based on the USD7 mold? No, it's a brand new mold. It doesn't have any resemblance to the USD7 aside from it being a flat boot with an internal shock absorber. It is my favorite old skate, though. It is why I wanted to make a skate, because I said the USD7 is great. Why don't they make more of these USD7s? And this was at the time when they stopped making the USD7. And I was like, well, I got to make a USD7 now. So instead of buying the USD7, which I didn't do because they're using it for the Gods Team Skate, I made my own molds. Great question, though. Yeah, that was not super clear before announcing. So now you know it is a new mold. Miguel Ibanez, how will the new sole plate compare to others? The new sole plate's great. It is a very clean design. I think it's going to look really nice on the boot. It will have the measurements that I like on good sole plates. It will have a lot of features for a small sole plate that I think you're going to really like. I'm being cagey about this, but we haven't really talked about the sole plate yet. We will talk about it in a future episode, I promise. Pat Wolfman, when are you going to see a picture of the standard boot? We're showing pictures slowly but surely on the Instagram. There will be some more fun stuff on the Instagram. Make sure that you follow the Instagram. Full showing of the boot probably going to be in April. Luis Lenz, when is standard going to drop? Oh, I didn't mention that, but we're going to start teasing it and showing it in April. Probably do pre-orders in May. Our goal is to have them available in June, maybe July. Again, it's my first skate, so it's really hard for me to predict how long this production is going to take. But if I'm basing it on frames and I'm adding like 2 weeks for who knows what, we're looking at probably June, July. So summer 2023 is what we're telling people. All right, scrolling. Michael Ibanez, please talk sizing for the new boot. I did talk about that during the big talk, but 4 shell breaks, 40, 42, 44, 46. Dual fit liners, so if you are a 39, 41, 43, or 45, you'll be the low end of it, but the liner will fit in that shell. You can always bring your own liner if you want. If you need a little bit more padding, you could get yourself a crown. Our liners will be a fairly consistent thickness. I think we're shooting for a 6 mil thickness, so not too thick, but not too responsive. It's going to be cushiony, but not crazy. And that is, still something that we're working on. So the liners we're designing now. We haven't, we've had a few samples, but we haven't finalized that design yet. Keep on blading. Will you include Mondo width in addition to length on the sizing chart? We will have a way that you'll be able to see what the width is. Width is hard because there isn't like a stop in the end. And I could take a cross section and say how wide your foot is, but if you look at a foot, it's kind of a weird shape. And I wouldn't want to say the widest part, because the widest part doesn't really tell the whole story. So we'll have a way that you'll be able to see where it is and maybe see how your foot compares. But know that we are making sure that they are on the wider side of things versus the narrow side of things. So picture more like a Them 909 versus a Majestic 12. Sean Michael said, do you need a trusted tester foot for the 44? Thankfully, I know a guy who is a size 44, 28.5 centimeters. That's me. So the 44 is my size. I'm really excited to get it on. I'll send you an email. I've got a few people that I know that are 44s that I want to try. I might be able to trust you, Sean. We'll see. I'll send you an email when we get to that point. Nickname, you rock. Thank you. Nick, you rock as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. Coney Hernando, what wheels are on the Aeon 80s behind you? These are Matt Lyons compass wheels. So these are Hood Panda. They are 80 millimeter, 87A. Skated them once. I need to skate them again. Compass bearings. I love the Aeon 80s. I really need to take these out and skate again. It's a really, really fun ride for all things that you want to do. If you just want to skate around your town, you just want to do some grinds at the skate park but go really fast. And I love these wheels. I think they're an amazing color, and they go really good with this gray boot. Judas Link, I don't know if you talked about the before, but what's the inspiration for the logos and aesthetic of the brand? I love what you got on the Instagram. That's a good question. So Stefan Brando is the designer. He's a good friend. He skates for Fitty Fitty and Chroma. We've known each other for many years now, and I couldn't think of a better person to work with for this project. The inspiration, we wanted to do something that was going to be inclusive, that wasn't just going to be rock or urban or, a very specific style. This is going to be a more, I hate to say generic style, but it's a more accessible style. And he had the idea and showed us some designs that he had worked on of kind of doing, it's kind of a retro style, that a familiar style. The ovals, the photos of the man, that style kind of harkens back to like the 50s and the 60s sci-fi, which is something that I absolutely love. And it's familiar with everybody. You can look at it and you can say, oh yeah, that's familiar, but it's unique. It's a really, really interesting style. So look for more. We're going to be introducing more brands and logos and stuff like that in the future. Looking for soft goods as well. The Instagram is a great place to see it. We should have a few more posts in the near future. But yeah, I'm very, very happy with the way that people are seeing the brand. That is what we wanted, that people could see the brand and say, I like this branding. It's not because, and to be completely transparent, my way of doing branding is always talking about the features and the clean lines and all of that. This isn't that. I couldn't do this. I needed to hire somebody who knew what they were doing, and that's absolutely Stefan. More to come. Vinny NZ and Knee0, can't make it to Spring Cup. Will you also go to Winter Cup? I probably will. I think that this is going to be, especially with a skate, I think it's going to be important for me to show up at all of the events. So yes, I haven't confirmed anything. I haven't told my wife, but I think yes, we'll be out at Winter Cup as well. And any other events, we'll make sure that we get out to Winter Clash next year as well. Sean Michelson, wait, the red base plates for the 99 Petting Thrones, first Pro Souls. Red base plates for the 99 Petty Thrones. Maybe, but they weren't labeled, right? So I think they looked different, but colors, I think color to match a pro model is different than having a pro model. And yes, we did have pro model frames for the non-UFS Fitty Fitty, and they were pro model, but now that we have, with the UFS frame, we had actual patches that had logos and stuff. I think that's more of a pro frame. That's where I would draw the line, that it has something unique to the skater's name on it, skater's likeness on it. Good question, though. Darren, I skate the ground control Mega on Seba CJ flat 64. What are the biggest wheel size your frames take? My frame, so you can get balance 2s. They fit up to a 60 mil wheel. If you skate primes, you fit a 60, but you can also get walls, replacement walls that can fit up to a 65, maybe even bigger. We haven't made a flat frame wall yet. My schedule was that we were going to make a flat frame wall for the core system this year, but clearly I've got a lot other things going on. There will be a flat frame wall that will come out that will support bigger wheels. I love the idea of skating flat 65, and there aren't enough frames out there that do that. So I do want to do that in the future. It won't be this year, but maybe it will be next year. Eddie Effany, how is Knox? Knox is doing great. Thank you for following on the Instagram. He's getting older, getting a little bit less crazy. He's just so much energy. I mean, he's a puppy still. He's 7 months. He just pulls people down and chases cats. And I mean, he's a joy to have in the house, but he's a nightmare to have. Thank you for asking. Michael Ibanez, will there be a promo video to launch Standard Skate? Yes. More information on that in April, probably maybe May for the promo video. I don't know. Really just depends on when we get samples and when we can get the skaters to start skating them. So it might take a little bit of time. But we are doing it right. I guarantee it. Toro, since this is a video about sole plates, can we see Standard Skate's sole plate early? No. But you can see a lot of the inspiration that I took from the different sole plates that I shared. I think you're going to like it. I'll tell you that. Stubbs, can we include shoops. Sorry. I got lost again. There it is. Stubbs, can we include foot measurements when ordering standard skates, or will the width be listed too? I fear ordering strictly on Mondo because of XLO ankle bones. Ankle bones are a thing. Sizing is tough. I'm not going to lie. It's stressing me out trying to figure out the best way to show sizing. I think we have a pretty good grip on it, but if you've got ankle bones that are going to cause issues, it's really hard to tell. So we will have a way that you'll be able to see the contour, but it won't obviously be a 3D print that you'll be able to see fully. It's going to be difficult. I'm not going to be able to provide, all of the measurements because it is a 3D space. Your foot is a 3D thing. As far as ankle bones, we might be able to provide that measurement. I think that's possible because we'll have the cuff measurements, so I can provide what the cuff measurement is, and then I can tell you how high up it is. So maybe I can do something like that, but I would hate to say, give you a measurement and then my measurement be off a little bit and then you measuring yourself be off a little bit and then you get a boot that doesn't fit. I mean, I guess it's no worse than the way that things are now when you don't have any information about sizing like that, but yeah, that's going to be tough. I will say that we will be partnering with a bunch of skate shops. So if you do have access to a skate shop, please reach out, ask them if they're carrying the brand, and go to a skate shop to try them on. I'll have them here as well. So once we launch the boot, I'll be opening the shop more often here at the warehouse. So people can come by, try on the skates. We'll even have testers that you'll be able to try on, and you'll be able to skate the ramps, skate the boxes, and see what they feel like with our liners, with your frames, whatever, so that you can make the decision if these are the right boots for you or not. They might not be the right boots for you. There are plenty of good boots out there. We're trying to do something different, but it's impossible to make a skate that fits everybody perfectly. I hope it fits you, but it might not. Ankle bones is going to be a problem, though. Definitely something to think about. Thank you for that. Anthony Mejia, will there be team riders skating your boot at Blade Cup? No, not at Blade Cup. That's too early for that. We're going to announce the team, but it won't be before Blade Cup. Pablo skates, yes, a slimmer sole plate for Whizzer would be perfect when doing deep carves, wide sole plate catching the ground. Yeah, I totally get that. I think that's something to look into. If you look at the new Adapt sole plate, the WZRD sole plate, they have a really thin sole plate. The new Faction sole plates. I can't talk about that. Anyway, forget I said that. William Moy, could you compare the size of modern soles to the Juice system? I could. I don't have the Juice here on any thrones. Do I have it on any thrones? I have the old Shimas. Where did those go? I could. I don't have easy access to it. I don't have easy access to it. I don't know where that boot is. But yes, if you watch next time, I will try to find that boot and I will measure it for you. It is not as wide. Like the Juice was probably as wide as the Majestic 12, which is one of the skinnier sole plates. Sole plates are crazy nowadays. They are extremely wide. Good question, though. It's fun thinking back. Keep on bleeding. Is your boot going to fit me best? It will if your foot matches exactly my foot. Then it's going to be the perfect skate for you. Mr. Darren 25, what's your take on one piece versus modular soles? That is something that I didn't talk about. The Rosie's Fifth Element has a 2-part sole, toe up here, the sole area up here. I have no idea why it's 2-part. Makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't see any benefit to it. Maybe it's cheaper to make a mold. Maybe you could customize it, but it makes absolutely no sense to me. I can understand this being replaceable, the 3-part system, because you do groove tricks and you're going to wear this down. But having this whole thing flat, I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would do this. I don't see any benefit to it. I think if you want to do a modular sole, you make the backslide plate replaceable like Razor's always has. Keep on blading. Will your sole plates have wheel wells to allow frames like the Wish without modifications? Absolutely. That should be a standard on all skates. Yes, of course. I love my Wish frames. They need to be able to fit Wish frames. Ravenous Pathogen, too bad you don't have something to show you how a boot sits while grinding. Yeah, it would be great if I had that little display, maybe something that I could put up here that would fit on a desk. Then I could put a skate on it and hands-free, wouldn't have to worry about it. That's a good idea. I'm glad I thought of it. The Clark Kirkman, wheel wells are worth a mention. Good question, Clark. Yes, I didn't mention any wheel wells. Talking about sole plates, a lot of sole plates have flat areas. That's the way that things used to be. Nowadays, definitely wheel wells are the way that it is. So you have a wheel well in the front, a wheel well in the back. Occasionally wheel wells in the middle. These are the factions. The Mesmer's also a really good example of it. Oh, it's in the pile. It's in the pile. There they are. Mesmer's a really good example of it. You can see they have wheel wells. The reason you would like a wheel well on a sole plate is because the wheel doesn't have to stop at the top of the frame. It can extend taller. So if you have a Wish frame famously has different sizes different sizes of wheels on the outside as they do on the inside. And the reason is they want that smaller wheel to extend over on top of the UFS bolt so they can make a bigger split, nicer groove. But the big wheels extend past the frame into these wheel wells. So they extend past the frame. This line, if you're drawing a line straight on the frame, the wheel would go past that. Just means that it's a lower center of gravity, a lower ride height. It's a really good idea. I think wheel wells, again, should be a standard on all sole plates. William Moy, do you have a pair of oxygen argons? If not, can I send you a pair for your wall? I do. They are... Where are they? They're way up there. The problem is that the argons don't have a carry strap in the back. So I have no way of mounting them on these little hooks because they don't have a carry for the liners. But I do have a pair of argons. Thank you for offering. I need to bring them down so that I have them more accessible. Good question. Lander, oh, hey, thanks for the super chat. Shut up, Papa, tap VG for life. Thank you. Yes. I don't know if that is Dap or who, but it's great to see you. I don't even know what that means, but thank you. Vinny, send Lander test boots. Okay, we'll see. We'll see what I can do with Lander. He's a nice guy, it seems. Keep on blading. Rosie's 92s, not 96. Thank you. I don't have them, but it is 1992s. You're right. William Moy, maybe you can provide outlines of the bottom of the shell to print out to see what shells would fit you best. We're thinking about something like that. So that will be, I think, the easiest way for people to see how they fit your feet. Print them at home, step on them with your feet, step on them with your liners, see how the shells will fit your feet. I haven't tested it yet, but that's in my head, that's the way that I'd like to do it. Any contributions from Justin Thursday in standard? No contributions, just in spirit. I love everything that Justin does, but this doesn't have any involvement with him yet. I think he's got his hands full with all of the other projects that he's working on. Toro, do you have the Standard Skate Co. sole plates not on a boot currently? If so, can we see it? Never mind, you just answered. I do. I have them over there, but no, you cannot see them. Not yet. Soon. Lemon Wedges, what is it you think from the market that you want your brand to fill? That's a really good question. The main thing that I want this skate to do is all of those little things that I love about all these different skates. I want all of those little things in one package. I hate that one skate has a really good sole plate, but it doesn't have an internal shock absorber. I hate that this has a really good cuff, but it has a horrible backslide plate. Like, there are things that, Frankenstein's monster, right? You could take bits off of all of these different skates and put them into one. That's the thing that I want to fill. I know what makes a good skate. I've skated all of the skates on this wall. I know the way that I like to skate and the way that I think most people would appreciate a skate, and I want to do that. And I don't think that's been done because, if it had, I wouldn't be doing this in the first place. I would have found the perfect skate for me, and I want to make that perfect skate. Sean Marco Luis, is it possible to install Kaiser sole frames on standard skate boot? The sole frame is said to fit most flat boot. Yes. I don't know what the I don't know what the hole pattern is going to be like. I doubt that the hole pattern would be compatible with ours, but yeah, I don't see why not. Not really designed for that, but it's UFS, so yeah, it probably would fit. I'll have to get a pair and try them. It's a really good question, though. I don't know, especially with it not being, again, it begs the question, if it's a sole frame, it should have the sole plate that mounts to the boot. And the Kaiser sole frame does have mounts for some boots, but I don't know what boots. I've heard it's Solomon, which is, don't get me started. If it's just going to use the UFS bolts, I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that's going to be responsive enough. Not without a carbon boot. I think a carbon boot is where it should be. It will fit, but I don't think it's going to be optimal. Keep on blading. Will your liners come with proper insoles or more of a standard footbed? It's a good question. We've been playing with a few different insoles. It will probably come with more of an insole than a footbed. Little cuppy thing in the back for your heel. There's so many of them out there that we've tried, and we haven't gotten to our liner design side yet. We've just been throwing ideas over, and we've had some samples, but we're still a little bit further out for the liner stuff. But that's definitely something I'm looking into. I will say that it will be a flat insole instead of how some insoles have a raised heel, because I don't want a double raised heel. The raised heel should come from the shock absorber inside your boot. And that was a problem that I ran into on a bunch of skates that had a higher heel in their insole, and it created this exaggerated forward lean. I don't want that. So it'll be a completely flat insole. Stubbs, I already reached out to carriers in Plano, and we'll also have the homies request them. Thank you. We've never sold to carriers. I think it's a great shop. I don't know that they carry all brands, though. I think it's maybe not a small shop, but definitely not one of the larger shops. So it would be great to sell to them. Love to get into Texas. Have a lot of skaters in Texas. So anything you could do to help, always appreciated. All right, I think this is the last one. Jeffrey rolls again. Has your career as a developer influenced how you run your companies and design products? Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway from my career as a software developer has been, how do I keep things organized and how do I stay productive in a fairly chaotic environment? And if you ask any of my friends, they probably the one thing that they'll say about me is that, they'll say a lot of things about it. They're my friends, right? But they'll say that he's extremely productive. I love getting up in the morning and having a plan for the day and knocking things out. And that is something that as a developer, I've always had. I start my day working on some project and I know at the end of the day, this is where I want to be at the end. And I can map out, because I've done it enough to know, I can map out all of the different paths I'm going to need to take and the steps that I'm going to need to take. That's something that has really helped in business. I've been able to, run this company while still having a full-time job, while still having a skating, hobby, while still having a wife and kids, biting off small chunks of time here and there and still being able to be productive. That's something that I'm really, really grateful for. And years and years of working in the corporate environment with high stress, high demands has helped me build up to this level of efficiency, I think. That comes across very corporate speak as well, but I think that's a huge part of it. Being able to get things done. A lot of people have a hard time with that, and that's something that I've worked really hard to get really good at. All right, I think we are in a good place. Thank you all so much for joining. This was a really great show. Had a lot of great people show up. Probably one of the bigger shows that I've had in a long time. So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know that it's probably late where you are. It's 11:15 here. We went for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Really, really great time. If you're in need of a helmet, backtobling.com/helmet. This is the place to go to put your name on the list so that I can pick somebody at random and give you a helmet at the end of the day. Love to get everybody a helmet. If you wear them or not, I can't make you wear them, but at least I can help you get one if you want one. Stay tuned for more information about the stuff that I've got going on. This is going to be a really busy year for me. I plan on being back in 2 weeks. I should be back in 2 weeks. Yeah, I should be back in 2 weeks with more information. Last plug, Standard Skate Co. on the internet, standardskate.co on the website, or Standard Skate Co. on the Instagram. If you want more information, we're going to be spilling more beans in the coming weeks about Standard Skate that I've been working so hard on. I would love for you to see what we've got in store. And thanks everybody for the support. It really is encouraging. You got to be crazy bringing a skate in right now, right? There's a lot of inventory out there. There was a big COVID boom, and then, we're kind of on the decline. It is scary. When I started this project, it was peak COVID, and I was like, all right, I got this. And now I'm like, all right, let's see if we can make this work. But after hearing from so many people, I'm very encouraged to do this project, because I know that what we're going to do with Standard is something that is different, something that is unique, something that everybody can get behind. And it might not be the perfect skates for you, but I think everybody's going to want to try them. And everybody's going, especially people who have watched my shows, everybody's going to know, oh, well, he did that because of this. Like, they're going to see things on this skate, see things on this frame, see things on this cuff, on the mounting plate, on the sole plate, and say, that's why he did that. Because you've seen it in my videos and you've seen me complain or see me praise other skates for it. I'm very excited to have a skate that hits all of those check boxes, that does everything that I want a skate to do. So very exciting times, very nervous times. But again, thank you all for your support and encouragement. I hope that you have a good week. Stay healthy. Get out there and skate if you can. It should be a nice weekend here. I hope to get out and skate. And thanks for watching. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.